You set?
Yeah, it's 6 o'clock.
Okay. Everybody, welcome to our Wednesday, February 12th, 2025 meeting of the Restoration Advisory Board for the Fulton Naval Weapons Station. I'd like to welcome everybody here. Thank you very much for attending. Before our introductions, we have just one brief announcement about
Yes. Thank you, everybody that is online and in the ring today. Today we have with us, we have the Contra Costa TV station that they are interested in selling them to me. Does anybody not want to be on camera? Please let me know. Raise your hands and they will make sure they're not put on camera because it's going to be a live for them. They're just here listening, asking questions or anything. It's just listening and providing the Contra Costa the opportunity to be a part of the Restoration Advisory Board. So folks online, also let you know if you don't want to be noted during meetings. So thanks everyone. And so go ahead, Sean, if you want to.
Let's go ahead and start with introductions. Great. For example, my name is Sean Wolf. I am the Community RAB Co-Chair. I am a Clyde resident. Hello, brother.
My name is Mary Volker-Wright. I am an Navy contractor, and I live in Concord.
I am Brett Leary. I am a state regulator, Department of Toxic Substances Control.
Derek Robinson, I'm with the Navy's Community Outreach Contractor in
I'm Jessica. I'm also living in Navy
Tracker.
Carolyn Etcher, Navy Community Outreach Contractor, and I'll be your police director tonight for this case.
Thanks. To a press level, we need to use real project directors.
Call water states the legal private benefit.
Valerie Garrett, and then they need to be able to get the Cox.
Folks in the back.
Right, all CRG, maybe touch them. Cut.
Folk Johnson, Concord resident.
Ray Walker, Concord resident.
Kevin Fonteris.
So, folks online, as we go, let me know if you have problems here at anything or you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand or you can type something into the chat. I'm going to hopefully have everybody, when they ask a question or speak, say their name so that you can follow along with who is in the room speaking. Online, we can go ahead and go over those introductions. Okay. Erica, do you want to go ahead and open up and do your introduction?
Sure. Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Erica Spinelli. I'm the Space Closure Manager at Concord. And to your point, Carolyn, I was having a hard time hearing some of the people in the back. So if we can help it through that, that would be great. But thank you for asking, and we'll continue in the introductions online. Thank you so much.
The phrase.
Okay, so online, we have Sharada with DTSC. We've got Guy with the City of Concord Redevelopment. Ryan, we're down. I'm not sure who you're with.
I just send that to Sonia.
Great, thank you. I have a Dave B.
Excuse me.
Dave Bennett, Public Affairs for the G. Jacob Henry, this one is Jacob Henry, Warlord, Jasper Lee, Chakran, Daniel Ledron, Concord resident. We have Suzanne Delville, Concord resident, Chin Patrick. He is a brand member and a Clyde resident. Tanya Keith Alanasi is with the Community Outreach Team, and so is Jenny Adels. Did I miss anybody else that popped on? I would hear one more first things to do Recla. Oh, thank you very much. Concord, she is a Concord resident. All right, great. Thank you. I'll go ahead and turn this back to Sean.
Okay. I do notice that we do not have a quorum or RAP members. Tim Kilpatrick and myself are the only two RAP members here. We have some sickings out there. So what I'd like to do is, if they can, if there's any Questions on the minutes that we have for last November. If they can, we'll start to send out an email and we'll try to get these approved our next meeting. Our November minutes meetings get approved at our next meet. Okay?
Yes.
We just got to, we're not informed this. It's no big deal. It's the done for.
Great.
On that note, I'm going to go ahead and send it over to Eric.
Well, is there any other RAB business or announcements that you want to say?
That's right, not top of my head. That's
Hey, Ken, do you have any business that you want to talk about or updates? Okay.
okay.
All right. Well, I would say from there, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Erica Spinelli. I'm the Navy's base closure manager for the former Naval Weapons Station Concord. I'm responsible for integrating our Navy environmental programs and our property disposal programs. That's property transfer. And I am filling tonight for Chris Santos, who's not able to join us this evening. Chris is our Navy RAB co-chair and our grant environmental coordinator. So I'm his supervisor, so I'm filling in for him tonight since he can't be with us. So bear with me as I come up to speed a bit on how the Concord route is going these days. It's been quite some time since I joined the Concord route. I'm happy to see everyone in attendance and happy to hear from you. So that's a good segue. In terms of a reminder, I think as the RAB and community members who join us often already know, but as the reminder so everyone, the focus of our Restoration Advisory Board meetings is really on the Navy's environmental program. And so that's where we'll really be focusing our efforts to provide student information and then take and understand and discuss your input both from the RAD and from community members. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. And I was going to give up, but we've already heard, thank you, Sean, the meeting minutes approval. So from there, we can jump into the recent reports and milestones. This is a collective update with the Navy's remedial project managers and those of the regulatory agencies with US EPA, the California Department of Toxic Substances Control, and also the Regional Water Quality Control Board. So I was just provide a couple of highlights from the Navy's perspective. In terms of some updates, and then I can ask my regulatory partners to fill in behind me if there's anything else you'd like to share. So just a few things. Since the last time we provided the RAB update, the RPMs have met monthly in December, January, and February. We also completed our land use control inspections at the beginning of December. And we've also finalized our final site management plan for fiscal year 2025 in early December as well with our continuously program. We continued our actions on the remedial goal with the regulatory agencies for installation restoration site 22. So that was ongoing in December and continues. And then finally, I'll mention that in January, we completed our phase-wide PFAS investigation. So that is a major success that we've been working on for quite some time just to get ourselves into the field and complete that thing. So happy to report those accomplishments and milestones. And I'll turn over at this point to, do we have a bond with us tonight? Where do I see Shay?
I do believe so.
We have. That makes it here, so please say. With that, I think my first Dr. Casey.
Yeah, happy to be here and hear from you if you have anything you want to impress on us. And had the opportunity to go and tour Concord with the Navy and US EPA and with the Water Board and with California Department of Public Health. It was a good time to go and see the different sites and to talk status and where we're at and where we're going. So we've been making good progress and happy to share it here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I know that we have a new representative from the Water Board. So please, Mr. Benjamin.
Yeah, was what the core was here for the rat committee, but also the family because I also see him for Machos. So yeah, I'm still getting up to speed. I'm technically the interim case manager, but I'm aiming to keep this so that there's stability so the water board this on our end. But yeah, getting up to speed, it was good to be out there today to see some of the sites where there are existing water quality issues. And so looking forward to working with the DTSC and EPA and this route team.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Nick to meet you and welcome aboard. As we say in the Navy. With that, unless there's anything else on your recent reports or milestones, I think I turn over at this point for our main presentation this evening.
Thankful. Eggs.
Everybody's ready to go. Okay, go ahead and introduce it. And then
All the stuff.
there are you gonna is that I can't if you might it.
But
Or is a prolific. You can do it right to go. You know.
it's the play chat. Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Brestoff, the Navy video project manager for the Runmaker B area. And tonight we visit Harry's open break. We'll be doing the exploitation for the recent steel break that occurred in 2024. God.
Hello, everybody.
Well, Sakiga.
Does anybody have their are they on there with
It was top news.
Swear. Okay, we'll just go. So as you can see on the front screen, my name is Mary Holkenbrink. I'm with the RRG, or BERG as we call it, a Navy contractor. And flip the slides. So the site location is down at the corner of Willow Pass Road and Old Bear Road. The big red wall. Next slide. So this is the site from, as you're coming into it, it's actually looking towards the southwest. And this is where our field activities, where those are actually our trailers, vehicles. That's it. Alright, next slide. So the runway debris area is basically a former airfield that was constructed in the early 1940s. They stored mostly and sorted aircraft and related munitions, materials at the site before becoming part of Concord. It was 1946. It was used for maintenance and synchronization of aircraft had machine guns. The runways, for the most part, they're paved, and they stored things on those from the 40s through the 1970s. So, and they stored vehicles on there. So nothing was stored off the runways, just mostly on the runway areas. The land surrounding the runways, the runway area were used for agricultural purposes and storage. As you can see nowadays, you'll notice all the cows out there. There's lots of them. They like to keep all of the grasses from growing, which is good because it grows really rapidly there. So there is metal debris that's found along the former runways in the past and along the runway Ibreth, which has prompted our investigation, our initial investigation, and that's continued with the investigation that you did. So the site. So here are the site features. We have basically an obstacle down in the bottom left-hand corner, which we're not allowed to investigate. And then we have some wetlands that are seasonal that show up mostly in the wintertime. Like right now, it gets really, really wet. And they spawn ponds. So there's two main runways, and then the apron area that's on the eastern side. The circle phases. So this is a circling concept project, and we are technically in a remedial investigation phase. They've already done a preliminary assessment. There's been a site assessment. They've done a remedial investigation. They found some metal debris and things like that that could be items of munitions. And so that's why we were doing our investigation we did. That's to go on with the RI so that the next step, which is a feasibility study, and then to a ROD that'll allow them to clean up that site. And so the main removal action objective of this site was to remove or reduce or mitigate all uncontrolled encounters with potential incidental munitions-related items, and then to reduce or mitigate the explosive hazards by unqualified people or visitors to the site during any types of ground disturbing activities, right? That's the main goal. So there was, before fieldwork started, we actually had a fact sheet that was sent out prior to any fieldwork that was sent out in like the middle of May, probably about a week before we actually started working out there. And it gave information of what was going on and what was turns out being done at that site. So, as you can see here, all the different types of field activities, we mobilized, we prepared the site, set them things up, did a biological monitoring out there, some vegetation removal, as I spoke about before, which is a lot more than what was really originally planned. And then we reacquired a lot of different anomalies that were determined previously. And then flag those anomalies to go out and do intrusive work apps. Once the anomaly or something was detected in the ground or was found, we then did soil sample sampling under all MEC items. So MEC is munitions of explosive construction. Usually those are the ones that you really worried about. And so we had so we did some soil sampling into those, and then we had some additional soil excavations that were done from samples that were taken during the original RI that were exceeding in metals analysis. So we did some extra excavation for those. And then we did a post-removal digital geophysical mapping or DGM survey to see if there's anything left after we had done all of our intrusive work. And then we destroyed any mech items that we found, which we did find some potential mech items, and then we drilled off the site in the middle of September. So the next couple of slides are a lot of photos, so I'm just going to show you this. These should go pretty quickly. So before we went into any digging, we had to mark lots of different things. So we have some fuel lines that are actually out there, so we marked down in case we found any mech. We actually had a magazine so we could put those in there in case something went wrong and we didn't mean to or whatever. Next slide. So we put up some barricades and red flags on the roads leading into the site. The red flag marks that there's actually munitions activities going on or things. So we had barricades and that. And then we had a California land surveyor come out and mark a location that's easily accessible so that we can do our GPS system up on. This is the next slide. So every morning, all the guys, they would do stretching, whether it was near where you were going to work or over by the base. Most of the time, it was over by where the trailers were. And then we had the GPS set up every morning and take that every night so that we knew exactly where our locations were we were digging and that like a game. Next slide. So we spent a lot of time doing those clans because it's really hard. With some of those grasses were like 3-4 feet tall. We couldn't see the flags to even go to them. So we spent a lot of time doing veg clans and we would have, there's a water buffalo, so there's water. We didn't want to start the fire, especially when we started getting like July on this left. They got really, really dry out there. So we did some QC work, quality control. We were putting in the seeds or items into the ground to shovel or to test and make sure the guys can see stuff correctly. And we were also doing daily tests of the equipment. just to make sure that things were working the way they were supposed to while they were out.
Yeah.
So the guys would spend I think most of the time we had over 18,000 points to go locate, so they spent all that time going out there with the GPS unit, making sure they were where they were supposed to be, and then they would put little flags in the ground as these guys could see the doe. So they were making sure they're using that mantel to make sure that there was something there and they knew where to put the flag so that they didn't have to put it out top that book this.
That's sliding.
So then when they did have to dig something up, they would dig right next to the item with a shovel, as you may see. So, and there weren't that many people around because we had a clearance we had to keep people away from. So there was usually a team of 2 guys that would work.
So, it was like,
So once the anomaly was removed, they would go over it with that little piece of equipment is a cart, and on that cart is another DGM, which will get this was so it basically was allows them to double check that there was nothing near it within a 2-foot radius.
it's sliding.
So we also actually had a regulatory visit. Rhett and his cohorts came out and they went and saw some of the sites and what we were doing. We actually had test pits. We had some areas that had some really, really high density of anomalies that were originally supposed to be discrete, and it ended up being so a lot of different debris into it, we couldn't do it. So that pit, the test pit, F13, is actually a lot of Doritos and others both may have. On the right-hand side shows an OFB. It's an open-faced barricade. So when we was near the streets of Willow Pass and Olivera, and the Coast Guard's housing, we would actually have the guys doing the investigations in that barricade, and it would prevent there was enough power on it to prevent any type of explosion outside that so that it would protect everybody and everybody of accidents.
It's like,
What is the test pit?
That's pit.
What is it?
It's literally, it's basically a pit that you're testing to see what's in. So they call it a testo.
So you like the debris was already in.
It's already in there. Yeah.
And that was how Johnson wanted to know what the test bit is. They can't cure.
They can do it. So this is 2 of the test pits. This is 14 and an F14 and then O's hands. As you can see, there's lots of debris. And when they're doing when they take that cart around, they can't verify that it's clean because there's so much debris that's in that place. So that's what they're trying to do there. So that's what that was one of the test pits that was created so that the regulators could see them. There was we've done like 7 test pits, and they all look like that. So once we found a munition item or suspected munition item, we actually would sample under it. And so we would go out there. They had removed the suspected mech items, and then we would actually take a little plastic spoon or scoop and scoop the soil into a jar, and then send it off to a laboratory to run or to analyze for metals. There's like a whole suite of them, and mercury. And then for explosives, there's like 12 explosives analysis for analytes that we would analyze for.
so, nice light.
So at the end, we had approximately 5,600 or 5,600 pounds of debris that we took off that site. Most of it was just debris, your dense posts, rebar, just scrapes of just debris. There'll be more pictures than that. The number of material documented as safe, we had over 1,000 of them. We'll have more pictures of those. And then we found 14 suspected mech items. The reason they're suspected is we couldn't investigate them or inspect them to determine that they were live. Most of the cases, in all cases, when we actually demoed the actual items, there was no secondary explosion, so most likely they were not live. So there is no live mech that was found on this site based on the day.
Yeah, there's a question for the yeah. How are you guys? I'm just asking for clarification on the counts of debris. Was that all metal debris?
That's all metal debris.
Okay, and my next question is on the material document that say there's 1,000 of them, and you think that's 1,000 munitions or pieces of munitions?
They're possible munitions, pieces of munition. They could determine that it was a munition, but it's not mech. So it was like pieces of parts of actual munitions items. So,
And then the mech, once again, is like a munition that may probably inspection of it may have explosives on the inside.
it could, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead. So these are the locations where we found all of the mech items, and as you can see, most of them are near the paved areas. There's a few that are off, but the majority of them are right near the paved areas and where you could easily store stuff off the side.
And it's hard to see, but there's 14.
There's 14 of those suspected sites, yeah. So really close to the last of us. So this is because of that, we had to destroy them, and because we didn't know whether they were live or not, so we destroyed them then. And so they were stored in the magazine that I showed you earlier, and then they brought in a contractor to bring in explosives, and we put them on the actual items, and they blew them up. So there was 14 of them, and they're in that hole, and then what happens next is the next slide. So this is what it looked like before, right?
Right, it's like
So that happened on the 12th of September.
Yeah.
So they were saying fire in the hole 3 times required when you blow stuff up for Delaware still items, you have to say fire in the hole. So makes for a good drinking game, but afterwards, it's next time.
Eric Baxter, now I have her hand up.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify and confirm that the buildings that you see behind the before for the background there are vacant, and there was no one there during this work. Just to confirm that. Could you confirm that for me?
Yes, correct. There was nobody there, and it was actually that angle is an awful angle because it was far enough away. It was within
Sean, for reference, would that be the Coast Guard housing? Coast Guard housing?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
And then while I have you, I just wanted to make sure that I correctly heard. You were saying that there was no live mech identified, but it was the material that could have had an explosive that needed to undergo this procedure that we're
Correct.
so fair summary.
Yeah, this is just spread all the areas. Yeah, I'm going to clarify something.
Same that Gary keeps saying.
Say that again.
Sorry, I'm stepping up. This is Brad earlier, but I have one clarification. The reason that we say that these were not live islands is tested a lot with the ways we basic detonate them. There's 2 ways you can demo. You put it donor charge like Seek-4 block of explosive iodine and literally explode it into parts. Or indeed what's called a jet perforator. Jet perforator is something from the oil and gas industry. It's the shape charge designed to punch a hole through a metal object. We usually use punch holes as to weld cases. So we utilize jet perforators on all of these items because what it will do is if the item's wide and has a explosive inside of it, it will actually detonate the item. And so you'll end up holding fragments. If it's not wide, you end up with a solid side of it. A lot of you inspect inside and you'll see what's inside. So the fact that it didn't explode into fragments and our ability to be able to inspect inside tells us the items are not wide. So the 2 pieces of evidence then supports that.
Thank you so much for the verification.
Next slide. It looks.
We're going yet.
You can go on. I think you found one.
Yes, I think once.
There you go. So this is all MDAS. So once the demolition shot happened and everything else, everything was put into, I believe there was 2 drums, sent off 55-gallon drums. This is a dam like shown on the left of MDAS that was found in one day. And then the drum on the right is several days worth of MDAS. So there were lots of little just fragments, things that look like they're munitions. They do, but a lot of them are inert or dummy. So they were practice type of munitions. So the military always uses practice stuff so that guys would get used to the feel and the texture and the weight of an item. And so they would use practice ones. So that's what all of the lotteries are. Our practice are empty. A lot of shell casings, gems or whatever. So that's what this was. All the MDAS was sent for disposal to any explosives and assets. It's where we send our stuff. We would have somebody go out there and inspect our items to be actually smelt into the air and destroyed. So this company in Texas does this for all of our company and several other companies. And it makes it easier. We know we get stuff in it who's not used to anymore. Next slide.
We did have one question to Dan asked, is any of this lead?
Yes.
Great.
So here are some MDAS from the test pits. So those 8 or 7 test pits. Here's a lot of that debris that came out that was MDAS and has actually been able to be inspected. They've determined it's not live mech or suspected mech because they inspected it and it went outside. So here is some of the metal debris that was found. Every week we would put all of the metal that was found that week into these 5-gallon buckets, and then we would take it to the recycler there on base and recycle. A lot of the container lids, you can see, there's lots of just debris. We found pipes, we found lots of things. So, and then those buckets would then get dumped into this recycling bin that's a program issue. But at the very end, after all that was done, we then took that cart and put it on back of an ETV, and they spent all of, several weeks going back and forth driving the DGM. This is the post-removal DGM survey, and then we spent days, weeks going back and forth. It's a lot of acres. You're talking about 186 acres, such. And they do that, don't they? So this is the results. There's this map on the right. There's still metallic items still remaining at the site. Most of them are near the actual runways, the apron area, the paved areas, basically. There's a few that are outside that area, but for the most part, that's what that looks like. There's some saturated response areas. We're calling them saturated response areas. They're the areas where the test pits were. They're going to, it's just, there's so many of them we can't actually clean those up. But the activities that we get have to be done to the way. So, we also did, I was talking about the soil excavations from the 7 locations that was determined from the original RI work. We went out, dug basically a 16-foot by 16-foot by 2-foot area where those locations were to remove the metals analyses that came up with cadmium and lead if they were really tied. So the whole point was to reduce the chemical contamination at for the 7 locations, and we did that. And so this is what it started. So we dug it up, they inspected it, got unloaded onto a hauler, and then backfilled with some clean soil, and then hydroseeded with some nice native grass. And so this was done 7 times in the span of 2 days. So now it was all nice and coercion. So this is the schedule that we've been doing. We had the work plan was approved in May, and then we mobilized in May, and then continued the field work in the middle of September. And so we're hoping to submit the removal action completion report in February, and hopefully that's going to happen. Most likely it'll be March. So with that, what stands this month. So the risk agency should be in the document soon. Any other comments? Questions?
I have two questions. On slide 5, H5. Yeah, please.
The cycle chicken.
Yes, you walked over here to say you could not inspect this area. You're not allowed to. What's no? I forgive me for my memory. Why my memory called? Why? I don't remember.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks for the question on that work one. So, with regards to the obstacles that you see there, some of that is something that we have not scoped this contractor to address.
Okay.
Up against the fence line, it was difficult in proximity to the fence line. You see that linear egg feature to the south. So that's a difficult area to investigate that we are proceeding with under this work. And then I would also point out that the large and big obstacle that you see laying there, that's an area of national and cultural sensitivity. So it was a part of this particular fieldwork effort, but it's something that we will need to address as we move forward to the overall investigation of this site.
So could ask me that. My other point on set 10.
Page 10.
Page 10. I didn't look into Oregon. That's the pipeline people. Wait. Now, they did not have any markers or survey marks out there prior to you guys on there, or they just verified?
They're verified. We were not allowed to dig or do any intrusive work within 10 feet of their line.
Exactly.
So they have to come out. But
they did have markers out there.
They do have markers.
Okay.
Yes.
And I know, for lawyers that they have to have somebody there on site.
Yeah.
As U.S. made this cannot be
Right.
closer to
And yeah, we had to mark, and they came out and marked, and there's actually 3 of them. It was a Pacific 66, so it was a Kinder Morgan. There were other ones too.
fuel.
And so they all came out and marked. It's part of our 811. So whenever we do a type of ground surveying, it's ground surveying. It doesn't even matter what it is. As long as you're doing even a spoon in the ground, if you're doing ground surveying, you're still on the 811, which is this was part of.
I mean, if you call 811, you've had every AT&T.
Yeah, they all basically either said that yes, there's nothing there, or there wasn't, and so they either came out. We had a whole group of people that came out.
So there were no surprises.
There were no surprises. No.
We have a question back there. Can you come up so that we can hear you bring us folks? Thank you, sir.
That's far enough.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm just wondering the telephone poles on page 15 and 24.
What was your reading, sir?
Ken,
Dixon.
are they bringing electricity into George and Eddie's property? And I'm also wondering, does anybody know if George and Eddie's property also was checked for debris? Fire being sold. Where's the Coast Guard property? It's down in.
My understanding is the power that runs on those lines is cut off.
Oh, great.
That was my understanding of Cotton was.
Still like
Yeah, which is like.
Glenn?
Glenn Meltstead would be sorry to tell us.
And to your question about whether the Coast Guard housing area was checked for munitions before it was sold, I believe the Coast Guard did do several investigations of the property before it was sold. And we know they did Southfield for it. I don't know to what extent.
Okay. Thank you.
And I can also, this is Erica, I can also fill in as well, just to let you know that in terms of the history of that period, the Navy, that's formerly Navy property, and we transferred it to the U.S. Coast Guard back in 2007, and then it was subsequently transferred by the Coast Guard to private owner in 2021. And so the Navy has been coordinating all of the findings that you're hearing tonight. We've been coordinating those findings with, of course, the regulatory partners, but also the Coast Guard and the private owners. So both the Coast Guard and the private owner are aware of the material and the findings that we'll present to you tonight.
So, any other questions? Anybody online? If you have a question, you can raise your hand or type it in the chat. And for those of you who do get the handouts before the answers, thank you for your emails. I'll forward everything to you through the meeting.
Thank you for your presentation. So, we'll go to, do we have any in the public want to make a comment? This is the time to maybe public comment period for the public.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. Nick, I suspect it's going to be the people on here, so I walk closer to you. Yes, please. So, announce to the South Sea. This is Chuck Johnson, Council President. At a few meetings ago at the City Council, Westfield gave a presentation, the developer, and they, on their timeline, there was a in 2029, there was an expectation that that could be around the time that the Navy was going to sprint over the property. And my question to you is not anything about turning over this property, but are the timelines here for the cleanup separate from the timelines for the negotiations? You guys just move forward and clean up and turn things over as they get done, and then the negotiations are completely separate, or any guys, is this body that's cleaning the one that is printed with the 2029 trim that makes sense?
I can take that question. That is the hi there, and thanks for the question, Hope. So, in terms of this synchronizing of these environmental remediation schedules, and then what that looks like, it's like property transfer and ultimate redevelopment. That's something that we work really carefully and closely with the city of Concord and Brookfield and redevelopment or development partner of Region. One of the things that makes that complicated, as you might imagine, is that as we continue to investigate a site like this one, Runway 3 area, sometimes there are findings that lead us to see that we have additional work to do at a particular site. And so that can affect our ultimate overall remediation schedule, and therefore the ultimate project transfer as redevelopment schedule. So those are things that we work closely with to provide as updates to the city and the development partners, so they have an understanding of that as we do. So those are things that we do our best to align. And at this point, I think it's difficult for us to project a true funds about where we are with regards to the cleanup on the Runway 3 area, just because we need to take into account what we found coming out of the field this summer and look ahead to how best to strategize to sort of the site.
So, previously, there was some discussion that some property may be turned over to the city of Concord in the spring of 2025. Are you saying now that that is just you are reconsidering that, and that may not be the case?
Sure. Let me provide some additional context there, and I see Alton wants to chime in.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to go one way, or would you like me to take that?
So 2025 may not be realistic given where we are, but here's a distinction between Runway 3 area and the 1,200 acres that the Navy has already done a finding suitability to transfer. And I think you understand that Brookfield's first phase, and even parts of its second phase, are in that first 1,200 acres, right? So it's already outside of some PFAS investigation. The Navy has already found 1,200 acres it can turn over very quickly, very shortly. Whereas there are other areas, and you'll notice that Brookfield has the runway debris area in like phase 3. It has Bunker City, phases 4 and 5, a little bit of 2, but mostly in 4 and 5. So there is coordination, but there's also an expectation that if we reach a deal with the Navy, certain properties will come first, and Brookfield is fighting to develop it in phases to accommodate that phase transfer of property from the Navy to the LRA.
Thank you, guys. That's what I wanted to emphasize as well. The nature of the phase transfer and the nature of different components of the phase and when they are environmentally supposed to transfer. So thanks, Simon. Appreciate us.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Anybody else on one?
Anybody else have any questions on tides flying around?
Okay. So on that note, if anybody could come up with any tonight, or we could email Carolyn for any topics we'd like to have for our next meeting, anything that we just remember right down top of our head that you want to bring up later on for our next meeting, which would be approximately, I was going to say May 14th. We'd like to do another tour sometime in the summer for 2025. We'll determine it. We'll try to set it out enough SMAG. You get everybody on board so they can cancel their vacations instead of that. But maybe probably, yeah, that's what you want to do. And then after that, our next meeting after that will be on November 12th. The tour is sort of calling me, right? We do a tour, and that is a meeting. We go out there physically, look at the sites that are being cleaned up, till you can actually see what's being done. You know, it's very to me it's very enlivening when we do these tours, and I'm involved in both the Navy and the Mockers on New York side, and it's very most of it's just historical for me, and I love the history of all this stuff. So on that meeting will be November 12th. After that, how do I do this? I need a motion to adjourn. That's it. We're not to adjourn. I have a quorum, so unless you guys, we can't adjourn, so we have to stay. We're not a quorum. Sorry. We have to stay.
That's a joke.
Thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate your help at the moves here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Erica.
Especially the lab filling in. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you, public.
Just waiting. Some street. Oh, they.
What do you think you were in this dead?
Yeah.